RJG The Hub. Summary Data Overview. To review summary data in the Hub, we can begin by selecting the Reports option from the list on the left side of the screen. At the Reports page, we can see a list of the various jobs that have been connected to the Hub. The top of the list shows a date range, followed by the list that includes machine name, mold name, process name, total number of cycles, number of reject cycles, time of job start, and time of job end. If we hover over a row, a three-dot option appears that we can select. The information from the report screen appears, with some additional information, including number of good cycles, reject percentage, number of out-of-match cycles, number of warning cycles, template name, runtime, downtime percentage, and name of user who started the job. This information can be closed by selecting the X in the upper right corner. To view information about a particular job on its own page, any job can be selected from the list. For our example, we will select the first job on the list. From the Job Overview page, we can see additional options at the top center of the page for more information regarding this job. For our example, we will select Trends. We first see the summary graph for this job, and scrolling down, we see the cycle graph. Scrolling back up to the summary graph, we will look for a section that has some alarms, so we can see some data points for our example. Here, next to peak pressure, post gate 1, we can see quite a few red dots, indicating alarms. To view specific information regarding an alarm, we can select and hold onto the data point within the graph to view the cursor. And the data for this point in the cycle appear on the screen, with the alarm number appearing in red. Above the number in the red are the upper and lower limits for peak pressure post gate 1 for our example, 520 psi and 500 psi. At the bottom of the graph, we can also see the timestamp for this point, as May 18 at 10:29 and 19 seconds. Since the lower limit was set at 500 psi, and the actual psi at that time was 453.84, we can see that is what caused the alarm at this point. If we scroll down to the cycle graph, it will show the cycle from the same timestamp as the summary graph, in which the alarm occurred. At the summary graph, to the bottom right, there are buttons to control the view of the data shown. If we press the play button, the graph will play through the cycles, and we can select the pause button to stop at any cycle point. We can also use the left and right arrow buttons to go through the data more slowly, cycle by cycle. To view any notes associated with the cycles, we can select the Notes button, located at the top right of the summary graph. This opens the Notes display, where any notes from this job would appear. For our example, there have been no notes submitted since starting this job, so there are no notes displaying here. To remove the Notes display from view, we simply select the Notes button again. We also have the ability to compare cycles of data in the summary graph to the cycle graph, and view them on both graphs at the same time. To do this, we will start at the summary graph, and make the first selection of a point on the graph for our example. Then, we will select the teal circle with two arrows, towards the top left of the graph. This turns the button green, indicating that this comparison option has been turned on. We can then select the second point we wish to use in this example, by selecting that portion of the graph. Now, we can see the data for that second portion, and a green line indicating where the first point that was selected is located. Then, if we scroll down to view the cycle graph, we can see both of the selections that we made in the summary graph, as overlay curves. For our example, we can see some differences in the cavity pressure curves, illustrated for these two cycles. We have the option to add trend curves to the summary graph, by scrolling back up to the summary graph, and selecting the Add button at the bottom of the curves list. At the Choose Trends page, we have the ability to choose the trend types for the curves on the summary graph, including machine trends, mold trends, composite mold trends, and template trends. There are also quick selection options, where the summary graph can show trend curves with triggered alarm events, and trend curves with defined alarm limits. For our example, we will select the two quick selection options, and then select Done to return to the trends graphs. At the summary graph, you can adjust the views of the graph, using the teal sliders at the top. We can zoom in and zoom out, as well as change the time frame we would like to view. We can also change the date of the graphs by selecting the drop-down box next to the date section at the top left of the summary graph. From the list of dates that appear for our example, we will select May 15, 2026. Next, we'll scroll down to the cycle graph and look at some of the capabilities there. Similar to the summary graph, we can select a point on the cycle graph and see the specific data at that point in the cycle. Scrolling up a bit, we can see some buttons that control the view of the data shown on the cycle graph. If we select the play button, the cycle graph will play, showing cycle after cycle. The playing of the cycle graph can be paused at any time by selecting the pause button. The cycles can also be stepped through by using the backwards and forwards buttons to view each cycle more slowly, one by one. Selecting and holding the tab on the right side of the cycle graph opens the Quick Actions option, where we can select the option to turn on Show Overlays. Then, after selecting the play button once again, a series of cycle graphs are drawn over one another until pause is selected. Overlays can be another helpful tool in viewing any deviations from the standard process. To hide overlays, simply select the Hide Overlays button. Additionally, machine sequences can be viewed on the cycle graph. At the bottom of the cycle graph, the teal tab can be selected, which opens the machine sequence graphing section. Here, we can see a line for injection forward, mold clamped, and screw run. When there is a step up on the graph, that indicates that the sequence is on. Where there is a step down on the graph, that indicates that the sequence is off. This section can be helpful to view in tandem with the cycle graph to see if there are specific instances of inconsistency involving these sequences. At the top of the cycle graph, if we select the play button, we can see, for our example, how the graphs move throughout the cycles. And to stop the graphs at any point, we can select the pause button to pause both the cycle graph and machine sequences. Thank you for watching this video regarding the Hub Summary Data Overview. For further assistance, please refer to the product manual or contact our customer support department at support@rjginc.com or by calling 1-800-472-0566.